Since my reaction channel is officially going to go the way of the dodo, I thought I'd kind of go out with a bang and react to something I've kind of been wanting to see for a little while. And this is going to be split up into sections because my computer editing software is crap and it likes to crash on me when I try and edit anything longer than 15 minutes. So this will be broken into segments of approximately 15 minutes each, and we'll go from there. So, I'm reacting to Disney Gallery, Star Wars The Mandalorian, making of the Season 2 finale. Now, this is the thing I was talking about that was left out of the last episode of this, which came out months ago. I think this one came out at least a couple weeks ago. I want to see this because, you know me, I'm a Skywalker fangirl, especially of Luke. So, here we go. Finally. Luke!
I think there's an interplay with storytellers and the people you're telling the story to. Does this look Jedi to you? I find that the emotions run very deep with Star Wars and people's relationship, especially people who grew up with it from a young age, feel a lot of connection to it. One consistent thing I'm feeling is that people care deeply that it's being handled correctly and that it's being handled respectfully. It meant so much to them and they want to see it continue into the future and feel like it's all connected with consistency. And we're very lucky that between Lucasfilm and Kathy, the whole group that we have are incredibly supportive and encouraging.
Incoming craft, identify yourself.
He!
I remember John gave me the script for the season finale episode, and I read it, and I loved it. It had a lot of action, it had a lot of great character stuff, and a lot of emotion. There was a character that came in at the end of it, and in the script it was written as a character called Plo Koon. And I knew Plo Koon was a Jedi, I think, from the prequel trilogy, and I was like, well, how are we visualizing this? And he's like, come over here in the corner, I want to talk to you. And he gave me the real news that it was in fact not Plo Koon, but it was going to be Luke. And I needed a moment. No, because I've had a long relationship with John, and I said, are you being serious right now? Is this real? You're bringing the guy back? And he said, we're bringing the guy back.
So I'm going to say this for the first time in probably 15 months to 2 years, Luke Skywalker. We were never allowed to say it. We'll get the performance out of Plo Koon Fest, and then in post, we can give pushback. Even now when we refer back to what we did, we can talk about the coding. We simply do not utter those two words.
If there's one person in the galaxy that you would be okay taking this kid from The Mandalorian, it's got to be Luke.
It has to be!
You know, usually John and I tend to think if he and I are aligned on something like that, it's probably gonna, I like to think, turn out good. But, you know, if I had been like, no way, Luke, John would respect that and be like, okay, let's figure it out. But it just felt right to both of us. He's in the moving around it. Every move you're making is like one step ahead.
But I instantly went from being thrilled to sort of feeling the weight of responsibility of this character. Because outside of all the technical considerations of how we were going to bring Luke Skywalker of that period to life,
I may cry just watching
the real
this.
responsibility in the storytelling
Ugh.
got to feel organic in the context of The Mandalorian. Because it's very easy to see a version where you bring Luke into The Mandalorian and it completely usurps all the drama. We had a lot of conversations in the writing, in the shooting, in editorial about how much Luke was enough, how much was too much, finding that balance. Weirdly, he's a device. I mean, he comes in, it's not like he's the delivery guy, but, you know, none of the characters are sitting there in awe of, oh my god, it's Luke Skywalker, he's the guy who blew up those Death Stars. That's not where they're coming from. He is a Jedi. He's this mythical figure, because none of them have ever really encountered a Jedi. That was interesting to me, and I felt like, because I think John and Dave felt, that this is a balancing act that we can figure out, and we can make it feel still like The Mandalorian, but feel like we're broadening out a little bit.
It was this carefully laid discussion, you know, the stages of, is it going to be him? How could it be him? Because we realized watching it that, you're kind of in denial. No matter how obvious we made it, you do not think it's going to be him when that hood comes off. Like that shot was one of all the shots that
The money
I
shot.
think was going to be the completion of this wish fulfillment. Luke. We knew we wanted Mark Hamill front and center because you can't bring back Luke Skywalker without Mark Hamill.
Thank you.
I suppose technologically.
I'm crying already.
We didn't want to. We wanted to have the real guy. We wanted Mark here because he is Luke Skywalker.
I was contacted by John and Dave, invited me to come over and take a look at Mandalorian. They said they loved my opinion. That should have been a giveaway right away. So I went over and they asked me to do a voice for a character that was in the cantina.
Mando, I'm looking for some work.
Unfortunately, the bounty killed no longer operates in Tatooine.
He often will do unbilled cameos as voice talent for other Star Wars projects.
How do we thank you? Win the war.
So it made perfect sense that we bring him in. But we started showing him a lot of the stuff, and we showed him, this is before anything had aired, we showed him that first episode of the reveal, and he was really captivated by it. He really liked it, liked what we're doing, what we're going with it. And so we told him what we were thinking of doing.
It is pointless.
It's pointless to resist.
When they went from the
Okay.
original trilogy to the sequels, obviously there's this huge gap in time where there's all these untold stories. But I just assumed they'd get an age-appropriate actor, you know, and I didn't really think about it all that much. I just thought, oh, they tell stories of Luke post Return of the Jedi. I wondered who they'll get. When they said they didn't use the aging process they used in the Marvel movies, I was just gobsmacked. I didn't answer right away. I mean, I had to think about it, but the more I thought about it, I thought, this is like really an opportunity that was completely unexpected, but something that almost was a responsibility. In other words, if they're saying they want me to do this, how can I say no?
Yeah.
Over the holidays, this would have been December 2019, John and I drove up together to Mark's house, and we brought the script, and we brought Luke Skywalker's wardrobe, and we brought Grogu with us. Mark was so gracious. We came in, John and I sat with Mark's wife as he was in his office reading the script in real time, so we were on pins and needles because it was not necessarily a given that he was going to be interested. I think he's very protective of his character, and rightfully so.
Peyton and I were just trying not to jump through our skin. We get into this because we're fans, and so there are moments like this where even when you get used to making this stuff, there are certain moments where it's so surreal.
He came out and he was thrilled, and I think a huge weight was lifted off of John's shoulders when that happened.
When you have those feelings that where it feels really compelling, you know that you're onto something. And we knew that if we could pull this off, it would represent so much to so many people, and especially to Mark. You know, to let him come in there and show Luke at this moment and let it be a celebration and also a culmination of that two-season arc about the journey of this little child. I'll see you again. I promise.
Mark was excited and
cry.
he was in, and he got ready to see how are we going to make the magic happen, which is good because we had to figure it out yet.
Kathy Kennedy, we brought in very early on this conversation. Kathy, you know, first and foremost, is a great producer, and producers figure out ways to make things happen that are creatively exciting to the.
Am I gonna be crying the whole 45 minutes?
Not only does she understand how to create an environment where we can have all the tools that we need to explore and experiment and be creative, but also knows what it takes to incubate.
I'm still getting chills.
Significance of what's right, what that could represent.
One of the big challenges on this show is the work is very ambitious. The expectation is that the polish level will be as high as what we're doing on the features. So some of this is working with the very talented and experienced artists that we have, giving them a meaningful turnover where they really understand what success means on the shots.
The unique thing about visual effects technology, or technology that can be used in visual effects, is that it can come from so many different places. It can come from the tech realm, it can come from a basement, and I think being open to getting inspiration for bleeding edge technology from anywhere is a big part of what we do on this show.
When we realized that we wanted to show a younger Luke Skywalker, we really looked at all the techniques available. There's a few basic paths you could go at this level. They're overlapping a bit, but just for simplicity's sake, you have a completely computer-generated version of a character based on scans and based on research and old footage, and that's like what they use for Brad Moff targeting.
Your work exceeds all expectation.
It's pretty easy to see what that is, but all the render tools and processing power is making that get better very rapidly. Then there's another technique for de-aging, which is actually like an airbrush artist doing fixes, painting out wrinkles.
Stop, I'm gonna cry.
And then there's deepfake, which is where you use machine learning to extrapolate from a tremendous amount of ingestion of images. You feed images either from the internet, or in our case, you feed it from all of the existing footage that we have of that character at that time. And it creates a library of expressions, faces, looks, lighting scenarios. And then when you have your performer perform it, the AI starts to figure out what expression would correspond to one that exists from the library of faces.
So that's what a
And so it's
deepfake
actually
is.
replacing the face that you photographed with a photoreal image that it's picking out and matching up. And so by matching all those things up, it creates the illusion that you're seeing this younger version moving around, but you're really seeing photographs that are cherry-picked by this incredibly robust algorithm that's pulling in the proper eye line or expression from the library of faces. So we were looking at all three of these techniques.
John was really interested in where is the technology right now. And so he had Landis Fields locked away in my office, like his own skunk works, kicking the tires on deepfake. Let's see how far we can push this. Is there a version of deepfake that makes it into the show? Is that how we find the likeness?
Landis is a brilliant art director, designer, modeler, and kind of mad scientist. He's exactly the kind of person that we love at ILM.
We locked him in a room. I'm serious. We locked him in a room for privacy, secrecy reasons. And he just sat at his machine, landed, and just like doing this literally all day long. And he's got like a command center set up, running deepfake tests over and over and over and over again.
Anybody can download this software, and anybody can have a go at making these kind of deepfake images. Once you have the software, you have to provide it the information it needs to rebuild the face. So in the instance of Mark Hamill, we put in a lot of footage from the original movies. We obviously have access to the 4K version of the show, so we fed it as much information as we can. Now, because it was the first time we'd used this particular technique, we also went online and found interviews that Mark gave, anything we could find to build up the data that was going to be used to provide a face.
We can't go back in time and reshoot Luke the way that we want. So we were having to pull very specific source footage. There was a moment where I even scoured the internet and found older interviews and that of Mark Hamill that were lit really well. So, you know, there was a lot of things that we were paying attention to.
You have to have a lot of trust in all the technicians that they're going to make you look all right. With where deepfake technology was at that point, it was felt as though, you know, we really needed to kind of rely a little bit more on the tried and true techniques rather than deepfake. So we wanted to really kind of focus in on the de-aging process. I had some experience with de-aging technology on the Ant-Man movies. In the first Ant-Man, we de-aged Michael Douglas from basically 70 to 40 years old. And in the second one, we did Michael, we did Michelle Pfeiffer, and we did Lawrence Fishburne. There was a company called Lola who had done most of this de-aging technology. So we reached out to Lola and talked to them about it and had them on stage supervising all of this.
We had two actors. We had Mark Hamill, and we also had a picture double named Max. And we shot both on set. We had also shot Max previously with all of the...
Why is R2 green?
Him was a whole thing, too, because we had to work with Seraphin and say, hey, look, we want to find somebody who physically resembles what Mark looked like right after Return of the Jedi. But you could just put out a casting call. So we created a whole list of people that she knew of that could be right, and we ended up reading him for a different role and then telling him
cross between a young Mark Hamill and maybe
He'd watch me do the scenes,
Brad
I'd watch
Pitt?
him do the scenes, so we tried to match each other. I would look at the monitor, and of course the image is small, but I thought, oh my gosh, he looks more like me than me. He's just
Nah,
uncanny,
no.
this guy. And
Too modest, Mark, too
What I think
modest.
is more magical than the tech is seeing Mark trying to teach someone to be a younger version of himself. If you really remove all of the tools and all the processes away from that, it's a very beautiful, enduring thing.
I desperately wanted to have a conversation with myself, your 7-year-old boy, that I think is still inside me, to remind myself to